a little insight into how IMordecai came to be.
Absolutely. First, I want to thank you all for coming here today. You know, one of the reasons I'm here, along with all of us, it took me 5 minutes to get here. I'm a Boca regular. I live here. I live on Jog and Clintmore. My kids, who in the film are babies, as they will tell me every day, Daddy, we're not babies. And they're in the 2nd grade at Donna Klein across the street. And my wife just sent out today the invitations for their 8th birthday party. That's how long this journey has taken. And the journey started, I had just sold my cigar company.
Wow.
Netta had just given birth to the babies. When Talia and Ariella were just about a month old, my mother, Fella Samuel, was diagnosed with Alzheimer's. To cope with the depression that I went through, I started writing down the stories that I would tell at cigar events around the country, around the world. And those stories, such as the plumber and the painter, which actually happened, were the first things I wrote down. Actually, the first line that I wrote pen to paper was the ending. I knew where I wanted to go, and I knew that they had to end on Lincoln Road, walking away together. Where, fella, it's your husband Mordecai. Where are you going? I don't know. Okay, I go with you. Those were my first lines I wrote. And I started writing all the stories. I started creating the characters of my family. And then I took a step back. I'm like, you know what? They're cinematic, but I didn't have a film, a screenplay yet. And then one day I come off a plane, and exactly as the opening, I didn't change a thing. I come off a plane, Dad, Dad, I'm coming over. We're going to the Aventura Mall, to the Apple store. I'm getting you an iPhone. And he went with me, kicking and screaming. And we walk in, he gets handed this iPhone, 2.4 gigawatts and this, and he's like, what the hell is this man talking about? And he goes, what is this? What are the buttons? So I look at the guy, he looks at me, he knows I'm in trouble here. And Apple at the time had a program that you can learn for a couple of $100. You can take one-on-one lessons with the Genius Bar. So I signed him up for lessons, and they told me usually 2-3 lessons is the most you need to get to group beginner for iPhone lessons. A couple months later, I find out Mordecai's doing 6 a week, taking lessons. I'm like, what could he be doing over the last 6 weeks? So I sneak up on him. He's holding court with these young men and women at the Genius Bar. He's now friends with them. He calls them the Einsteins. He's making them laugh with stories. He's making them cry with stories. I said, this is it. This is the story, and this is how the vehicle that we're going to tell of this relationship that Mordecai forms with a young, impressionable lady who is teaching Mordecai modern technology. He tells her stories, and they both have a shared past that's hidden till the end. And that's the story, my friends.
But we have one more surprise for you. Believe it or not, he's here today. The man, the myth, the legend himself, the real man, played by Judd Hirsch.
Oh my.
Give it up for Mordecai Samuel.
All right. Woo.
So many stories, so much history present in every frame of this film. Yeah, let's keep going, yeah.
Yeah.
My father, Mordecai.
Woo!
So Mordecai, 8 years of hard work took to get this film on the screen. We're here now. These beautiful people have seen the film. How do you feel?
Well, I want to tell the people that was not in the movie that how I survived the war, why I didn't end up in Treblinka. My father's neighbor was a Gentile, not Jewish. My father was the best shoemaker in town. He makes shoes from scratch, no factory shoes. When it comes a Jewish holiday, this neighbor that lived with my father for many, many years, door by door, he bring him chicken, whatever from the farm. When it comes a Polish holiday, my father make him a nice pair of shoes. But when the Nazis occupied Poland and was close to Janów Podlaski, where I live, close on the border between Russia and Poland, this neighbor of my father, he was so mad because I was a child going to his backyard picking up flowers, cucumbers. He never say a word. But now when Hitler come close, he saw me in his backyard picking flowers. He took a stick and chased me through the fence to my father's backyard, and he break all the windows. And he says in Polish, niech no tylko Hitler przyjdzie, let Hitler come here, I will cut all you Jews the throat. So my father sees something like this. They live like two brothers. He took a wagon with a horse. He crossed the river to Russia, and we ended up in Russia. My father was, I think, 42 years old. They sent us to Siberia to cut big trees with a not with a chainsaw, with a.
They put him in the gulags.
Yeah.
My grandfather.
And they cut the trees, chop small pieces of wood. And the small pieces of wood go to the Russian tanks because their tanks was going on steam.
The first generation of Soviet tanks.
My
Yeah,
God.
that's you can show
What a
this
story.
everything in the movie.
Right.
So that's my story, a little bit out of the movie.
How wonderful.
And what a story it is. I mean, so much history present in, like I said, every frame of this film. Aja, coming into this project where you're working with somebody's life story, it's no easy feat. What were some of the challenges you faced coming into this project, working so closely with the life story of Marvin and his father Mordecai?
Well, I do want to clarify that my character and Jared's character in the film are the only fictional characters in this film. Marvin created those characters through the Einsteins that Mordecai had worked with, but they were composites that were formed through memory and through experience, I suppose. So being the only fictional character in this story, I think there was a little bit of room for me to explore, but also to observe. And it was interesting being on a set that had Marvin, the real Marvin, on set, played by Sean Astin, and had Mordecai on set, played by Judd. And Judd's a little method, so between takes he would stay in the character as Mordecai. And the best way I could paint the scene for you guys is one day when we were shooting, I believe we were doing the plumber and the painter scene, correct? I have to let them know. I have to tell the people.
No pressure.
So, this was a tough day for Marvin. He had Judd in character as his father, and he wasn't thoroughly enjoying the way that Marvin was directing things on set that day. He had Judd yelling at him from one angle, trying to go to Judd, calm him down. In the back, you hear Mordecai going, oh great, now Marvin's fucking it all up. Now Marvin's running over to his father, trying to calm him down. He has it coming at him at both angles, and I'm just sitting there observing it all, getting a little bit of laughs in at your expense. I'm very sorry for that.
Yes, thank you.
But you know, it was really surreal to watch that. It was surreal to take on and to be able, as an actress, to observe how these actors, and also Sean too, you know, observing how Marvin's handling how his relationship with his father and with Judd, and kind of taking all of that like a sponge, absorbing it all and just throwing it into his own character as well. So I think it was a very interesting experience, I think, to be able to observe how, you know, actors, Judd's process in being able to authentically portray Mordecai, Sean doing the same for Marvin, all while getting to know Marvin as an individual and Mordecai as an individual. Yeah, it was really incredible, and I know it wasn't always the most fun experience for Marvin, but
it was a bit hectic at
yeah,
times. You know, we had
just a little bit.
23 days to shoot, to do 874 shots, which for an experienced filmmaker who's done many films, that's a lot. This was my first film. It was the first time I was ever on a film set. I'm a cigar maker, guys, but I knew I had a vision, and with the team led by producer Dahlia Heyman and executive producer Alan Bain, who are still with me to this day. In fact, guys, everyone, let's give it up for executive producer Alan Bain, who's back. And yeah, 23 days we shot all in South Florida, almost exclusively in Aventura and in South Miami, South Beach, Miami Beach, Lincoln Road, as you can see. And it was a surreal experience, but the actors were able to see, you know, my wife was on set, my dad was on set. I'm here every day directing you guys. And they were able to see the dynamics and be able to use that in the way that they portrayed the characters on screen.
which was really cool for me to see.
And I think they did a great job. Wouldn't you guys agree?
Absolutely.
So, you know, we like to open things up to you guys now. Let's take some questions. Anyone in the audience, raise your hand and ask one of these lovely panelists a question. Yes?
Is Mordecai really from Canarsie?
He wants to know, are you really from Canarsie?
Oh yes, original from Canarsie. I lived there more than 25 years.
Where did you live?
I used to work in
Where do you live?
Kingsbrook Jewish Medical Center.
What
Oh,
street?
They want to know what block
What
did you live
street?
on? What street?
Oh, East 84 and between J and K.
Flatlands.
Did you guys also live there?
We live on 84th between N and Seaview.
Oh, wow, what a small world.
That was around the corner from Mrs. Green's house. Her real name was Mrs. Finkelstein.
What a small world. Do we have any other residents here in the audience?
My son used to work
Wow.
in Nasher.
Yes,
Anyone-
I worked in a bodega called the Nosher because my dad was on 82nd and Flatlands. When I was 11 years old, I'm on the stickball court, I'm at bat, okay? And now my father pulls up at the schoolyard and he just walks over right in between the game. He grabs me by the ear while I'm at bat, takes me to a local bodega and says, "This is your new job." No interview. There was no Indeed back then. I'm 11 years old. I'm clocking 40 hours a week in a bodega selling cigarettes, lotto tickets, putting all the New York Times and posts together 4:30 in the morning on a Sunday. Okay, this is what I'm doing. And when I would complain later in life, like you see the scene between Mordecai and Marvin, when Mordecai's in the hole in the ground, and if I would complain, you know, I'm 40 years old, and he goes, yeah, go call child services on me.
Wow. Anyone else? Don't all raise your hands at once. Yes.
Mordecai, how did you like the way Judd Hirsch played you?
Oh,
That's a
great
good
question.
How did you like the way Judd Hirsch played you?
Oh, Judd Hirsch.
Yeah, how did you
He-
like
he
how he
play me
Yeah.
excellent.
Yeah?
I don't think any other actor would play better than Judd Hirsch.
You're probably
But Judd Hirsch don't know one word Jewish.
What? Oh,
Even
that's,
you
Carol
helped-
Kane,
you
I
helped
have
him.
to teach him some Jewish.
Some Yiddish. He taught them Yiddish on set.
Yiddish
But
I speak 5 languages.
Oh, boy.
so, but Dad, what did you remind Judd on set every day about your ages? What did you tell Judd about his age and your age?
Well, me and Judd Hirsch, almost the same age. He's like 1 year older than me.
mm.
You would remind him that every day.
I told Judd Hirsch, when I would go to school acting a little bit, I would play better than you.
Especially one day I made the mistake. He goes, "How much Judd making?" And I made the mistake of saying, he goes, "What? What the hell is wrong with you? I do for half price."
And then he'll probably also paint the set also.
Yeah.
That's right.
Anyone else? Yes, in the back.
Yeah, how did you meet your wife?
The question is, how did Mordecai?
Mordecai.
Mordecai, how did you meet
How
your
did you
wife?
and Mommy meet? She wants to know. But not the whole Megillah, just
A Megillah is a Megillah. I can make shorter.
Okay.
Well, my wife went to Israel to visit Israel 2 times from America. She used to live in America, but years ago, when the war finished, she emigrated to Israel. She speaks Hebrew and everything. Anyway, she's supposed to meet me in Israel, but I was working the Yam HaMelech, the Dead Sea, far away when she was in Haifa. Till I get to Haifa, she went back to America with the boat, Queen Anna Maria. And later, 6 months later, I make a tour to America, to Brooklyn. I got a friend, I sleep in the basement. So he told me, listen, I know a woman that she's looking for a husband. She went twice to America to look to Israel to look for a husband. She gonna come here, I introduce you to her. And that's what it is. When she came, I saw her, she sit by the table, and we start to talk. She speak 5 languages like me, Yiddish, and Russian, and Jewish, and Hebrew. And we start to talk, I says, don't go back to Israel looking for a husband. I have 3 days left. I have to go back to Israel.
This is their first conversation.
Don't go back to Israel, look for a husband. You have right here, a husband. Let's get married. And that's what happened. The last day, I have to go back. We went downtown Brooklyn. We stay in the line with different nationalities. And that's it. They come to the judge. And he says, you taking your wife or her wife? And she takes, yes. He sign, he give a stamp, and then he says, give me $4. This time, yes, 50 years ago, it was $4 to get married.
Now, yes.
The story about tying back into the camps, of course, was very emotional for all of us. I want to know, you said that her character was fictional, but that part of the story I would assume is true, the connection with the grandfather and the.
That's a good question. was
So
my
the question is, we know that the character of Nina was fictional, but the relationship between the grandfather taking place as an SS officer, was that part of the story
Right.
fictional as
The
well?
entire story was fictional,
Ah.
taken out of. I had the character of Nina created. Nina was getting secretly paid off by Marvin.
Right.
I don't know how endearing that character would have been if
There was another camp.
eventually the foundation would have collapsed and people would have said, what's with this Nina character? So she got paid off and they formed a friendship. And that's where I created that character, saying, how else is it possible in the world for someone like Nina and someone like Mordecai, who come from two different worlds, to have a common bond at the end?
Interesting.
And that's where the whole process came from.
Very good.
Great question.
Very interesting.
Great question.
Very good. I was wondering about that.
Now, Aja,
I
being
was gonna
that
ask that
your
same question.
character is not based off of any real person in the same way Marvin or Mordecai's characters were, how did you prepare for something like this? Coming into, again, this autobiographical piece when you're not based on any real person?
Well, although she wasn't based on anyone real, Marvin did have a very specific way that he wanted Nina to be portrayed, and also her relationship to be relationship with Mordecai in the film, Judd, to be as authentic and believable as it could possibly get. So, along with a lot of research that I did to understand what it would feel like as an individual to find out that my grandfather was a part of something so horrific, there was also an element that me and Judd took as well, to make sure that our relationship came across and our chemistry came across as authentically as possible. We spent a lot of time on set together, would go to dinner together, go golfing together, FaceTime with each other on the weekends, and spend a lot of time together. And then, as of course, with the development of Nina specifically, to understand her soul and to understand her motivations behind the reasoning for why she came to South Florida and is volunteering at the JCC and is forming this relationship and wanting to learn more about Mordecai's history, that came with a lot of conversations that I had with Marvin, and him giving me information about, his family's history, and also recommendations of movies to watch, books to watch, and to, of course, just put myself in a position. My family is also German as well. They moved to America in 1896. There's no connection to the war. However, it was close to home a little bit. There was a possibility that I could have a grandfather who came from something of this and who did something of that sort. Of course, I did not, and I'm very grateful for that. But it wasn't out of the realm of believability. So I think, of course, again, like I said, me and Marvin had a lot of conversations, and I had to really understand what it would be like to find out something to her caliber of trauma.
Wow.
That the family was experiencing.
But I will say that, the character of Nina and the real person of Aja portraying Nina truthfully was the biggest question mark heading into the film. Because I knew what I was getting with Judd, Carol, Sean, the woman who played, the actress who played my wife Netta is Stephanie J. Block, 2-time Tony Award winner. She's currently at the Kennedy Center portraying the lead in an Andrew Lloyd Webber musical. And this is her film debut.
Wow.
But I had to choose from many Ninas, and I knew that Aja was the right person to portray her. But I also knew that there was gonna come a day when we were on that dock and she was gonna have to deliver. And it took multiple takes.
Mind you, I was reminded of this dock scene every day. Lots of pressure.
No,
to
come
make
on,
sure
no pressure at all. Just, this is the most important scene in the movie,
Yeah.
Aja.
Dock scene 6 days from today, Aja. You ready? Can you do it?
Do it. You got the tears ready? But boy, when I finally, we got to that take, it was the last take. We had to keep moving. We were in double overtime, and she delivered. And I don't know what you guys thought, but I thought she did an amazing job.
Very good.
And this is not only my first film, but this is Aja's first film as well. And I am very positive you guys are going to hear about this incredible actress for many years to come.